The Trump administration says it has agreed to a new framework for a trade deal with China.
The president laid out a bold vision for the United States, for America to reindustrialize the onshore manufacturing.
China has just closed what was once a 5-year AI gap with the United States, and it only took them 18 months. Even more shocking, they did it without relying on Nvidia. Across cities like Shenzhen and Beijing, an alternative AI ecosystem is quietly taking shape. One that operates without American cloud infrastructure, doesn't depend on Silicon Valley's GPUs, and doesn't wait for Washington's approval. This is not a theoretical ambition. It's happening now. Huawei recently confirmed that its large-scale AI models are being trained and deployed entirely on its own Ascend chips, designed, built, and optimized inside China. These chips may not rival Nvidia's H100 in raw performance, but Huawei's engineers are using parallel computing and energy-efficient clustering to get the job done. The result: an AI system that's good enough for China and increasingly for much of the world. The message is unmistakable. Huawei no longer sees the need to chase US tech. Instead, it's building something of its own. And it's offering it to any market the US has chosen to walk away from. As Huawei's founder bluntly put it, if the US doesn't want to participate in China, then we've got China covered, and we've got the rest of the world covered too. This isn't just a story about hardware. It's a race to define the software, the standards, and the infrastructure that will power the next generation of intelligence. Because in AI, the platform matters, and where developers choose to build today will determine who leads tomorrow. The US thought it had cornered China by cutting off access to Nvidia's top AI chips, the A100s and H100s that power nearly every major model in Silicon Valley. But by mid-2025, something unexpected happened. Huawei, along with other Chinese tech firms, ramped up production of domestic alternatives. According to official projections, China is now producing up to 200,000 high-performance AI chips this year, not clones of Nvidia, but chips designed for one goal: to be good enough to train and deploy homegrown AI. Models like DeepSeek, Qwen, and ChatGLM, some of the most capable open-source models coming out of Asia, are already running smoothly on Huawei's Ascend chips or scaled across dense clusters of less powerful processors. No Nvidia, no AWS, just Chinese silicon, Chinese data centers, and Chinese infrastructure. And here's the strategic twist: AI isn't a linear problem, it's a parallel one. If a single chip can't do the job, you don't need to wait for something stronger, you just use more chips. Hundreds, even thousands. China has the electricity, the engineers, and the data to do exactly that. This is where Washington miscalculated. The goal wasn't to match Nvidia's performance watt for watt. It was to build good enough hardware fast and make sure it runs Chinese AI for Chinese users. So far, that strategy is working.
For the American people, they're in danger. For your workers, they're in peril. For your whistleblowers, they literally fear for their lives, but you're getting compensated like never before.
And with each successful deployment, the idea that US technology is indispensable grows weaker. While US sanctions focused on hardware, China quietly went to work on the software, and it may have been the smarter move. By mid-2025, China's top AI models, including DeepSeek V2, Qwen 272B, and Yi 1.5, began outperforming their Western counterparts in some of the most demanding reasoning benchmarks. In tasks like code generation, math problem solving, and multi-turn dialogue, these models beat Meta's LLaMA 3 and even pulled ahead of Mistral's Mixtral in certain open-weight evaluation. And these wins weren't hidden in academic papers. They were open to the world. Unlike the US, where top-tier models from OpenAI and Anthropic remain tightly closed, China is doubling down on transparency and access. These new models come with open weights, inference engines, and multilingual API ready to be downloaded, tested, and deployed by anyone anywhere. The result: China now leads the world in open-source AI output. That includes not just the number of models, but their size, quality, and real-world usability. It's not about copying anymore. It's about competing and often winning. This isn't a hobbyist movement. It's a national strategy. While US firms guard their algorithms behind paywalls and platform lock-in, Chinese companies like Alibaba, Baidu, and DeepSeek are giving the tools away, building a global user base, one developer at a time. Because open source spreads fast. When researchers, startups, and governments across Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East begin building their products on Chinese models, they begin anchoring their infrastructure to China's stack, not out of ideology, but out of access, ease, and affordability. This changes the game. The more developers use China's models, the more feedback China gets. The more feedback, the faster it improves. This loop code feedback accelerates innovation far beyond what closed-source competitors can match, and it creates lock-in not through contract, but through momentum. In short, China isn't just building models, it's building an ecosystem. And in the race for global AI dominance, the country that shares its tools, not just protects them, may end up winning more than just market share.
If we want the American technology stack to win around the world, then giving up 50% of the world's AI researchers is not sensible.
It may win the future foundation of intelligence itself. China was never supposed to catch up on hardware. That was the assumption in Washington, that even if China could train models, it would never build the silicon to power them. That assumption no longer holds. In 2025, Huawei filed patents for the Ascend 910D, a chiplet-based design that pushes performance closer to Nvidia's flagship GPUs. While it doesn't match the raw speed of an H100, the 910D introduces a modular packaging approach, allowing China to stack and interconnect smaller chiplets into a high-bandwidth cluster. Think less brute force, more precision engineering. This design shift is strategic. By sidestepping the bottleneck of advanced lithography, which still depends on Dutch and American tools, China is betting on packaging innovation to bridge the gap. And it's not just Huawei. EV maker XPeng recently unveiled a domestically built AI chip for autonomous driving that delivers 200 TOPS, more than 3 times the performance of Nvidia's widely used RNX chip. It's a breakthrough that didn't come from Silicon Valley, but from a Chinese startup tied to the auto industry. And it signals something deeper. Chinese firms aren't just catching up. They're starting to optimize for specific use cases better than global incumbents. But there's still a ceiling. China remains heavily reliant on foreign-made extreme ultraviolet EUV lithography machines, the kind needed to manufacture cutting-edge 5mm and below chips. Without access to tools from ASML and LLaMA research, China's chip yields and efficiency lag behind. Yet even this gap is narrowing. Massive state-backed investments are flowing into SMIC, and a growing constellation of domestic packaging startups. Billions of dollars are being pumped into advanced testing, cooling, and interconnect technologies, the unsung layers that determine whether a chip can power tomorrow's AI at scale. So yes, China's chip industry isn't invincible, but it's no longer fragile. And the more the US tries to choke China's access to traditional chip pathways, the more it pushes Beijing toward alternative architectures, novel materials, and smarter engineering. It's a forced evolution, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. Because in AI, it's not just about who builds the fastest chip, it's about who can deploy at scale with the tools they actually have. And in that race, China's no longer just chasing, it's redefining the rules of the game. While Washington debated chips, Beijing built something deeper, a full-stack AI ecosystem. In China's hospitals, DeepSeek AI is already assisting frontline doctors, analyzing scans, spotting risk, and delivering real-time insight. It's not a pilot, it's deployed, functional, saving lives. Meanwhile, on the global stage, robots from Unitree Robotics, a startup out of Zhejiang University, are being shipped to Europe. And the US, initially designed for logistics, these AI-powered machines are now being adapted for defense industry and research labs abroad. Behind it all is a massive infrastructure push. The Chinese government has funded over 250 new AI data centers, enabling millions of domestic models to run without touching American cloud services. And the tech giants, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, are now investing billions of yuan annually to replace AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud with their own AI-native China-first cloud platforms. This isn't just catch-up. It's a pivot from dependence to dominance, from copying the global tech stack to building their own and quietly exporting it to the world. Right now, the US still leads in core AI technologies, from chips to foundational models. But that lead means little if the rest of the world stops building on it. By isolating China, America isn't just cutting off an economic rival, it's cutting itself off from half the world's AI talent. If engineers and developers across Asia, the Middle East, and Africa turn to Chinese platforms because they're cheaper, open, or simply available, then US technology stops being the global default. That's not a hypothetical. It's already in motion. Huawei has made its position clear. If the US won't participate in China, then we'll take care of China and the rest of the world too. And here's the danger. Once an AI stack becomes embedded in languages, apps, infrastructure, it becomes sticky. Developers don't just build on it, they rely on it. They grow with it. And over time, they stop looking elsewhere. What happens when this next generation of AI, the tools that power healthcare, defense, education, and finance, is built entirely outside of America's influence? The US can restrict chip, but it can't restrict ideas. And if China succeeds in building a fully independent AI stack from silicon to cloud to deployment, then we need to ask who really controls the future of intelligence. And more urgently, is America defending its edge or slowly suffocating its own ecosystem in the name of cutting China off?